Hello everyone, welcome to the first ever stream of Silica. We hope that you can hear us all okay, and we would hope that you're happy to join us on our first ever stream. So let us know if you can hear us, if the audio is working fine. In the meantime, we'll start with some introductions really briefly. My name is Forsythia, and I'm the Senior Community Manager for Silica, and today we have the one and only Dram, the developer of Silica, and we also have Antonis, who is the marketing specialist for Silica.
Hey everyone.
All right, so we will start with a live Q&A. Oh, and I need to briefly mention as well that we will be having a special guest later on, so stay tuned, keep an eye out for that. Alright, let me check the chat real quick if everyone's agreeing that they can hear us all okay, and then we will jump right in. Okay, we're a little bit quiet. Alright, let me try and adjust that really briefly. Thank you for the heads up, everyone. Let's see. Not sure, like, is it too quiet that you could barely hear us, or is it just right? If you try to adjust the volume on your devices while you're watching, please let us know if it could be more comfortable on your end, as we have our microphone set up in the optimal level. Okay, really quiet, we can hear, but had to volume up to max. Okay, had to turn the volume up. Volume is fine. Alright, so we have a bit of a mixed feedback from the community. I think that we'll jump right in real quick, and then we'll see how the rest of the stream goes. Okay, so let's start with some easy questions first, perhaps. Drem, how is it today? How are you doing today?
I'm not doing bad. We released just a few moments ago, an hour ago, so I hope everyone's enjoying it and downloading it. I'm curious to hear feedback.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we are getting some early feedback already, right? The minute we released the game, I think everyone started streaming every now and then, and
Yeah, I think that's what.
Alright, okay, sounds awesome. Well, maybe let's dive into some questions, and apparently Dram is not very audible. No, you're okay. Maybe you could try to adjust the mic a little bit to be closer to your mouth. Alright, he's muted all the way, completely. You can hear me. Tony, can you please speak up and see if...
Hey, can you guys hear me? Is my mic working?
Okay, so he's not muted, but he's super low. You
Okay.
can hear Tony.
Is this much better now, or?
So you'll have to speak up, Drum.
Yeah, that's fine. I boom my voice a little more.
Oh, Drum is totally muted. Alright, so we'll need some assistance with the sound mixer. Let me just have a look real quick. Alright. His mic is not connected or not working. He is the lowest of the low. Alright.
That's interesting.
Yes. Dram is coming through my mic. Suspicious. Let's see what's going on. It should be alright. Some kind of bug, perhaps? It might be.
Some kind of crab.
Yeah.
Alright, you know what? Let me just put the standby screen on while we try to figure this out. We'll be right back. We're really sorry for the inconvenience. We'll be back in a moment. right, everyone, we're back. Drum, please try
Okay,
speaking.
I am talking now. Can everyone hear me? Is this much better? Am I
Yes,
audible?
they said yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's
Hey.
lovely. Okay, Drum is alive. Yes.
I
welcome.
live. Thanks,
The
everyone.
man himself. Has
There
been
won't be an
resurrected.
invasion of bugs. Not yet.
Nope, not
The
at all.
dramatics begin. I saw someone.
Yeah,
right there, yes.
it was all part of the plan. Totally, it was all.
It was, all, it was,
the-
all, it
you-
was staged.
You
it was
can't
staged.
have drama without Drum.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Sorry, I had to start with the puns. All right, so let's try and restart with the questions since we did have a little bit of a scuffle there. How are you now, Drum?
Oh,
How
well,
are you
I'm
feeling?
much better now that I can be heard. So that's good to know. The so Silica was released an hour ago. So I hope everyone is enjoying it and is finding it fun.
Oh.
And yeah, so that's my main concern.
Oh no, I'm sure that the chat will give us some feedback, and I think that
Definitely.
there's nothing to be concerned
Yep.
about, but I think we'll be alright. Okay, so some real quick question again for you, Drem. You had this game in your mind since 2008, am I right?
Yes, that's right. 2008.
That is a very long time ago. How does it feel now that we've finally released Silica? How does it feel to see it live and available for everyone to access and enjoy?
Well, I'd say it's quite surreal because it's it's a concept which I've always wanted to do. Well, even before 2008, but 2008 was when I put the concept together. It's a very strange feeling. I mean, it kind of like dawns on you a little bit later, definitely. So it's I mean, it's definitely I'm ecstatic, of course, to finally have it out there. So I hope people enjoy it.
Oh yeah, I hope so too. I mean, we had some colleagues playtest Silica, and we've all enjoyed it. So we hope that our community enjoys it as well, if not enjoys it more than our playtesters did. So, yep, let us know. Maybe a really quick question from the chat here, Dram. Will Silica be translated into other languages for localization?
Yes, it will. More likely towards the end of early access, mainly because we're going to be adding air units and other stuff during development. So the best point at which to do it is towards the end of early access. But definitely by the end of early access, there should be several languages available. I don't want to really confirm any right now, just because I don't have it off the top of my head right now. But definitely there should be several languages.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for that response, Drem. Hopefully that satisfies the chat. And let's try and jump in a little bit more into the lore, as we've discovered little by little the lore through the trailers and through the blogs as well. So could I ask you to go into I want to say a deep dive, but I know that we don't want to spoil too many things. But could you go into it a little bit and dive into the lore and what's happening on Baltarus?
Okay, so I mean, most of it, like especially when you start up the game, there's an introduction video which plays, and it's about 4 minutes long. It's an exposition dump, as one could call it. But it begins with basically saying that that in the year 2351, humans basically invented teleportation, or discovered teleportation is a better way to describe it, and it requires a lot of energy. But allows, of course, traveling to distant places. However, one of the biggest issues with this technology is that it basically gravitates, or the end destination gravitates towards gravity wells, such as planets, stars, black holes, and so on. And so the biggest problem with it is that although you can teleport, you can't really get too far in distant space, mainly because it just gravitates towards black holes, for example. And so the idea is that it's like, oh wonder, we've invented this fantastic technology, so let's search the stars. So humanity releases a ton of drones to kind of like scout various areas in the Milky Way, but none of them return. And it's only several years later that that one drone does return, mysteriously, covered in dust, of course. And it turns out to come from Baltarus, and that was what led to its discovery. And so they strangely find that the teleportation link in that direction in particular is quite stable. And so, of course, there's a very good reason for it, which I will not spoil. But basically, they send pioneers to kind of explore the planet, and they come across Balterium. They come across these giant crystals, essentially, and which is not the Balterium itself. It's just quartz. But the idea is that there's Balterium underneath, and it causes basically multiplies input energy. So it's found to be like, wow, we can use this for like a massive energy multiplier, as well as it manipulates the matter around it in strange ways. Specifically in this regard, it manipulates the sand around it and causes it to crystallize into quartz crystals, which are vertical. And that's why we get these vertical crystals on the fields of Balturium. And of course, as as humanity does, we start exploring the planet, we start mining it. But of course, we encounter the aliens, which are in fact local wildlife, and they're very territorial, and they start, of course, defending their land. They don't defend the Balturium itself, but they defend their land. So of course, conflict naturally occurs, but because it's like in the future, and humanity was kind of in a peaceful time, they didn't really have a military at the time. A military is established because they need to deal with the crabs. Not the crabs, but the aliens in general, sorry. And so, we have our own army again. And of course, during this time, the Centauri are established by using the teleportation technology to get to our nearest star, which is Proxima Centauri. And around the star is a terrestrial planet, and it's called Centaurus. So it's got a beautiful red hue. And they name the planet Centaurus, of course, after the red hue of the star, which it's a red dwarf. And so we have two civilizations, the Centauri and the Sol, which is us, of course. And of course, then they start mining, as I mentioned. That kind of escalates to a degree where, of course, they start strip mining in large areas and so on. And of course, people can be greedy. So the idea is that not all that much of the Balturium is transferred over to the Centauri, and they request it through political means. And once it just falls on deaf ears, essentially, then they start their own mining operation. And I'm at the end, I promise, I'm at the end. It's a long response. But they start their own mining operation, and of course that naturally leads to conflict because they start mining the same areas, they both have their own military, and war occurs. So that's what brings us into the timeline of Silica itself, the game.
All right. Thank you so much, Jam.
I promise not to answer that long next time.
I mean, you can. I'm pretty sure the community would be very pleased to hear more details, but we'll try and take it slow. We'll take baby steps. There were a few questions in the chat, which is, like, I would say they were quite important to answer. They were asking if we will be seeing some gameplay. Yes, we shall. Dram the man himself will be playing some Silica later on, and we would actually hope to try and get some of the community into the games as well. We'll try and share more details later on once the moment for that approaches. Okay, and let's continue on with some questions for you, Dram. Now that the game is out, how close is it to what you originally had in mind?
As in, like, originally from the concept, the former concept?
Yeah.
Okay, it's quite different, because the concept, it's, okay, different and the same. to clarify, the concept from 2008 involved about 10 or 15 planets or something like that. I wrote a lot of it, wrote a lot about it on Discord, but essentially it was meant to be multiple human races, and of course, additional other races, fighting for control of several planets. One of them being Baltarus, the one in the middle. So that's where it was meant to begin. That was the original concept. So in this regard, at that time, it was just not possible for me to do. I was just way beyond my scope there. But now I think it's definitely a bit more on the horizon of possibilities. But yeah, so in this regard, it's changed somewhat, but not entirely. Basically, I'd say in the scale, because before there was 20 planets, now it's just the one.
All right. Okay. I see. Thank you for elaborating on that. Let's try and see. Well, I wanted to ask you, because Silica is the seamless blend between. It has a seamless blend between RTS and FPS.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult was the process of making this RTS and FPS hybrid?
Very good question. It was actually quite difficult. I had a lot of experience from, Take on Mars, Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead, and Carrier Command, and other projects. So I did have a familiarity, of course, with doing games. But more specifically, with Take on Mars, I was doing a lot of physics-based units. This was one thing which I considered very important here, to have all of the units physics-based, especially the crabs, because of course they can swarm in on things, and if they just kind of like were next to each other, it wouldn't really do them justice, so they need to be able to pile on this massive pile. So everything is physics based, and that was one of the first issues I had with it. Of course, writing AI for physics based units is not entirely easy because you have to write the control so they can use the input just as a player does. But definitely, I'd say the biggest the thing that I found the most difficult was, in fact, ironically, the buildings and everything associated with them. Because the even the multiplayer was, I mean, multiplayer is of course traditionally one of the most difficult things to do. But in this regard, I'd say it paled in comparison to some of the issues I encountered with the structures. Because of course the structures are absolutely massive and really realistic in size. So I mean, literally, we'd fit where we are now. I mean, we'd fit under some of the vehicles. Easily. So large structures, placing on dynamic terrain because the terrain isn't flat, it's very much a 3D and so on. That was very challenging, and especially then updating the navigation mesh and all this kind of stuff and keeping everything in real time. That was, I guess, definitely for me, that was the most difficult thing by far.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. And this would be the perfect moment to segue into a little bit of a trickier question, let's say, since we were talking about the difficulties that you've had. When you were making the game, what was the most difficult point? Would you say it was the infrastructure building, or was there something that was even more difficult that almost made you want to give up?
To be fair, I think during development you encounter these kind of, like, I would call them walls, several times. I mean, I can't say there was one specific moment where it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is becoming extremely difficult. There was multiple points with that because, of course, I have been working on it from 2008. Sorry, 2018 is when I restarted the project. And of course, you encounter numerous technical hurdles. So there were times when it's like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to shelve this again. But you have to just push through. Once you decide to go, it's like once you have at least a year behind you, like, nah, I can't shelve this.
All right, so you were very driven to definitely get it out there.
Yes, I really did want to.
The dedication is real. That's amazing, and now we have this beautiful game for us to enjoy. So I'm pleased, and I bet the community is very pleased to hear that there wasn't exactly a moment where you really just wanted to give up. You picked yourself up, dusted yourself off, and just kept going. That's
definitely, I'd say it's part of life. In general, sometimes it gets you down.
And then you get back up again.
Exactly, and you got to keep pushing.
For sure. Yep. And a little bit of an interesting question, perhaps. It might be interesting, especially for those in our community who are already a part of our Discord for Silica. There is a person with a role. It's a special role. It's called 300 ms ping. Could you shed a little bit of a background on who this 300 ms ping person is?
Okay, so the 300 millisecond ping person is my brother. He lives in Australia. I'm in the Czech Republic, of course. And he was really useful in playtesting because it's 300 milliseconds ping, and I did want to play with him. So that's one thing that we had to take into account. So I did write the multiplayer infrastructure to take that into account, to be able to play it even though with these massive pings, because 300 milliseconds is the worst. And of course I played Counter-Strike with him, for example, and it's always been very difficult for either me or him to play. So this was one thing which I really wanted to get right here.
That's really pleasant to hear that your brother was able to help out a lot in shaping Silica. That's beautiful, honestly.
Shout out to you, Tom.
I hope he's watching. Do you know if he's watching?
I don't think so, because he is a lawyer, and tomorrow he's got some stuff he has to do, so he's probably asleep at this point. Unfortunately, it's 1 a.m. there, but but he'll be looking at the stream afterwards. So.
Could watch the VOD.
He'll look at it. He better.
Is that a threat?
Yes, it's a threat, Thomas.
All right. Thank you so much, Dram, for the questions. And we do have some Australians in the chat saying it is 1:30 a.m. in Australia. So
good to see you guys.
Thank you for stopping by in spite of the late/early hours over there in the other side of the world. All right. Thank you so much, Dram, for answering some questions. And I'd like to segue on to Antonis, who is our marketing specialist for Silica.
Hello.
So, real quick, Tony, that's if I may call you that.
Tony's fine.
What would you say was the most fun to work on in the realm of marketing for Silica?
Definitely, we were part of the trailers. So the cinematic trailer was one thing that we got to work with, and it was a very interesting and very fun experience. So, for example, we had to do some custom animations for the trailer itself. And I remember we did those like a year and a half ago, or like around that time, like a year and a half ago. And we wrote the narration lines for the trailer. The in the year 2351 we discovered Baltarus and all that. And then we had to have a brainstorm. So we were like, okay, we have the lines. So how are we going to structure the trailer and the video around this said line? What are we going to use? What kind of shots are we going to have? Are we going to use custom animations or not? So we had to figure that one out. And it took a little bit of a process, a little bit of a time to make it. But at the end, I think we came up with a really nice looking cinematic trailer, which is like very epic. It tells the story of the game. It showcases strategy and the battles that you can have on Baltarus, and I think it turned out really, really nice.
All right. Okay. And to add to that, about the brand of Silica,
Mhm.
could you tell us a little bit more about its creation? So, the websites and the color
Yeah,
schemes.
definitely. When we first started working on Silica and we had to decide on the brand and the image, so how is the logo going to look like? How is the website going to look like? What kind of color scheme are we going to go with? For the logo, we knew that we wanted something minimalist but elegant as well, that can kind of convey the meaning behind Silica, which is RTS and FPS blended into one. So in the end, I think the logo that we have is like the most amazing minimalist, but also self-explanatory logo that we could have. And then we got to work on the website. So again, we wanted to have a certain color scheme. So we went with this like dark blue and orange, these kind of like colors of Balters, let's say. So we wanted to convey that through our website and all the marketing assets that we would have. Um, and yeah, we got to designing the website. So we wanted the first thing that people saw once they came there would be this nice little slider of showing you how you want to play. If you want to play an RTS, you get to be a commander and you control the battlefield. If you want to play an FPS, you get to do that as an infantry soldier. You're going to be, boots on the ground, front lines, all the action, live it firsthand. So we wanted to showcase that, and I think the website, how it's looking, it's very slick, it's very nice. It's got this kind of like futuristic vibe to it, which obviously we had to go with, seeing as the game is set in the year, or like after the year 2351. But yeah, everybody who worked on that did an amazing job, and yeah, shout out to all the people who contributed to that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Tony. And speaking of the people who you are shouting out to, there was, I believe, a lot of testing that was done. Could
Mhm.
you walk us through the testing phase and how long it took to get everything together? The play tests and the animations for the trailer.
Yeah, it took quite a long time because as the game was evolving through its stages, we were testing it out just to make sure that we know what the game is about. So, for example, because I had to write the blogs for the website, so the blogs about the game modes, how each one plays out, I had to extensively play the game so I could understand how each game mode plays, so I could then put it in writing to be understood by a person reading the blog. So it was like months of process, and as the game was evolving more and more in, into what it is now, so did our kind of approach to it, because at some point, when you have enough time in it, like, okay, strategy mode, it's RTS, FPS, but what are the details? What are like the small little intricate things that you can put in there to kind of showcase it a little bit more? So that was fun, the whole process of testing it out.
And how long exactly did it take, this whole
Like
process?
I think it took like a little over a year.
All right. Okay. So a lot of work has
Yeah,
been
yeah, definitely.
done throughout the year. All right. And let's say this would probably be the final question for you, Tony, so we could wrap up and move forward. What are you looking forward to the most when it comes to future updates?
Definitely, I would say the flying units. They are planned, and we will be sharing more news as the game progresses through early access. We will be also sharing some plans behind some future updates. But flying units for sure, they're gonna be very cool to kind of see Baltarus from a different perspective, because now you see it from the ground, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see it from air.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
the chat is actually very happy that you teased a little bit of what's coming in the future, but
Hey.
don't fret, dear community. We will be shedding more insight throughout the stream, so just keep an eye out for those little tidbits. All right, and maybe back to you, Dram. As you are the one-man team behind this beautiful project of Silica, do you have any advice for other developers who are trying to make their dreams come true as you have?
Yes, I do. I'd firstly like to actually begin with acknowledgements. So one thing, I was not alone like throughout the project. I'd definitely like to say a couple of names, namely Kase Hutskova, who did basically all of the locations. So definitely all of the locations and you appreciating them, that's her work. Second is Andrzej Binar, who did the UI. So all of the UI, the fantastic, UI, is all his work as well. It would be very unfair to not mention people. Then Bohemia Interactive Thailand did the LODs for the things. Of course, you guys, and of course the people who did the video and so on. You have Vladimir Yashke, Petr Hovanec, and so on. So everyone's credited. That's the important thing. I don't want to miss anyone. But yeah, and of course, I want to thank Marek Spaniel as well for making this possible as well. So definitely want to mention those people. And on that note, I also wanted to say that the idea of, let's say, being a solo developer, I think is I think it's important to note that you're never truly alone, right? I mean, I'm not sitting here alone at the moment. So you always have like support. You do need support because otherwise it truly is a very, very difficult path. So I'm very grateful for the time the people kind of spent on the project. But definitely, if you are going to go it alone, so to speak, like leading your project, definitely be realistic. Don't go over the top. I mean, you can see the result. In 2008, I wanted to make a massive game, and I just ended up shelving it. And don't begin with the main menu either. That's one thing which I've noticed on a lot of like indie projects is they begin with, for example, the main menu, which generates hype within the team, which is good. But it sets unrealistic expectations because you suddenly get like, oh, cool, and you kind of get this feeling of the game, but you don't have the game itself. So it's better to focus on the gameplay. Is the game loop fun? And these kind of things. That's what I would focus on, or that's probably the advice I would give to someone. And ideally, you definitely want friends to make it with. If you can, find friends to make it with because it just makes it so much more worth it. You don't need to go alone. For me, it was like the beginning of the project, especially. It was kind of like, oh, I want to try it out on my own. But definitely, I do see massive merit in having at least a small team.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dram, for that. You know what? It would be a perfect time to segue to the gameplay trailer in case our community hasn't managed to have a quick look at it yet. And after the gameplay trailer, we'll be having our special guest joining us, and we will also be getting started on gameplay. And so, again, for those of you who would like to join in on a community game for today's stream, keep an eye out. Dram will be helping us set that up, and we'll definitely be communicating it with you later on. So, alright, let's have a look at the gameplay trailer. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Silica and the world of Baltarus, an exoplanet located thousands of light years from Earth. Your mission here is to locate and harvest Baltarium, an element concealed beneath the silica crystals on the planet's surface. Silica is a crossover of RTS and FPS, where you can lead from above as a commander in real-time strategy, or experience the action firsthand, either on your own or with your friends, as infantry in FPS. You have the option to play between two human factions, the people of Sol and the determined Centauri. Or you can hunt them down as the insect-like aliens native to Baltarus. As a commander, you'll get to control the battlefield, the structures needed to produce bigger and more lethal means of destruction. On the other hand, as an infantry soldier, your job is to follow the instructions of your commander to ensure victory for your side. You'll get to control all of the units and vehicles, along with their arsenal. There are 3 game modes available. Strategy, which combines the RTS and FPS elements, and can be played in any combination, up to a 3-way conflict between the factions. Prospector is a co-op FPS only mode,
Prospector Unit Alpha, this is Command.
where you begin your quest near your landing pod and prospect the area for Baltarium, encountering enemy forces along the way. If you're looking for pure mayhem and carnage, try Arena, an all-out, free-for-all deathmatch. And now, you must join the battle. The scorching deserts of Baltarus are waiting.
All right, everyone, we're back, especially with our special guests. Perhaps I would like to start off with some brief introductions, as we have some people just entering the chat now, and some people are asking, who's whom? Well, we'll start with the man himself, Dram, who is the developer of Silica, who you can see in the other camera.
Hello, everyone.
And my name is Forsythia. I'm the senior community manager for Silica. And we have Marek, who is our special guest today. So thank you, Marek, for joining us. Thank you for making the time to be here. All right, we'll quickly start with some questions for you, Marek. In the meantime, maybe Dram could start with some gameplay.
Oh, sure. All right, I'll start a 3-way, yeah?
All right, for sure. Is there a way for the community to join or not?
Yes, there is. It's password protected. It's called Dram's server, to be very original. But yeah, it's password protected. Do we want them joining now, or do we want them joining a bit later?
We can have them join now. I think it's not
Sure.
an issue.
All right. Please don't troll.
The biggest.
Okay, so the
beg.
password is crab. If you can just write it into the chat, maybe, or something, if it's
All right.
possible. Or we can just, I guess, I could just say it's just crab. C-R-A-B.
All right. Thank you so much, Dram. And while Dram is setting that up, all right, Marek. First off, well, I would like to ask, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. So thank you for inviting me on this very special day. So I'm really proud of Drum's achievement. So 5 years in the making and finally is out. So it's a huge day. So thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you for being here. We'll definitely be celebrating a little bit more later on today. All right, so moving on to Silica. When you first heard about Silica, what was running through your mind? What were your thoughts about Silica when you first heard about it?
I'm pretty sure I heard about it long time ago during development of Take on Mars. So I remember Martin Drum mentioning a mod for Doom 3 that was basis of the lore and backstory of Silica. But in more real terms, I heard on a special day when we actually had a celebration of Drum leaving Bohemia Interactive, so it was his farewell party. We made a fireplace, and we just had a few beers, and then Drum told me, oh, come on, I'll show you something. So he showed me on his PC a concept for a game, and I asked him, why don't you make this game real? And he said, okay, I would like to, but how to? So I hope we found a way, and now finally you can see the result of his passion. So Silica, 5 years of his work, and we tried to support him as much as we can.
Yes, thank you so much, Marek. Before I move on with the questions, Dram, may I just quickly ask you to unmute your computer so that the community can hear the sounds? All right. And so, back to you, Marek. Since we were able to help Dram make this game a reality, we did do the game through Bohemia Incubator, and Bohemia Incubator basically is a platform for creators and their video games. So could you walk us through the reasons why we decided to have Silica as the first Bohemia Incubator game?
Oh, it's not first incubator game, because Bohemia Incubator already was in place for our internal projects, but it's a first game that's developed by pretty much external developer, this time mostly solo game developer. But the history of Bohemia Interactive is quite long. We started in early 90s, like technically we started in 1999, but we were a game publisher and game distributor before. So our legacy was publishing many games, especially for the local markets back then. So now with the rise of digital distribution, it may seem that publisher is no longer as vital as before, but we realized that especially these days the market gets much more competitive. There's thousands and thousands of games released, so we think it's time to get back to this part of the original DNA of the company. And Bohemia Incubator is a publishing label, but is also a system we put in place to support other indie projects. So most important obviously for completing a project is allowing the developer to fully focus on the game. So it means funding provided for the development, but we also carried through the development of the game from the conception through many phases, and we try to be a good partner and good support for Martin on this project, and we hope with the experience we can hopefully support some more games in the future like this via Bohemia Incubator.
All right, thank you so much, Marek. And back on to Silica. What made you believe in the game that is Silica? What made you tick about it?
Oh, first of all, I really believe in Dram, Martin. So he's a very special guy. So I watched him growing as a game developer for now nearly 14 years. So he joined us during time, I think was summer 2009, just after we released Arma 2. So back then we were a small team near a forest. So he joined our little group of developers living by a forest. So we were literally neighbors. So I watched him growing as a man and growing as a game developer. So he's very dear to my heart, even on a personal level. So I very much believed in him. So obviously we did several games. So some of them did not end up being massively popular yet. I am still super proud of his achievements. So probably the most notable is a game called Take on Mars. I know this game did not really receive much appraisal, but it's a great game that has incredible depth, is about Mars exploration, and has many concepts that are now done in Silica. Just this time I think it's much more accomplished, and one of the things we kind of recognized after Take on Mars is that the game can have very in-depth mechanics, but players don't like too complicated controls. So we tried to hide in-depth mechanics behind much more friendly, user-friendly experience that now you can see in Silica. So I always like this idea of blending RTS and FPS in one game. So I'm very much influenced by games like Carrier Command and Battlezone. So I used to play those games when I was way younger, and I really like the idea of bringing this concept back to players. And I also like a game that is more action yet has some strategy elements. So when RTS were young, they were much more accessible and much more action than these days. When you create RTS, it's usually for grown-up players that played dozens of RTSs. So that means they really want it super complex. But we wanted this game to be accessible also for newcomers to the genre or even young audience. So I think it was very easy to be sold on it, and Drum showed his capability to deliver it. So it's a combination of great pitch and obviously a great game developer behind it.
Alright, thank you so much, Marek, for diving into that. Before we continue on with the questions, I would just like to address really quickly that there are members in the chat who are saying that they can't find the server or they can't see the server. Dram, our one-man developer, would you have some insight on this by any chance?
So I see there's about, what, 10 or 15 people in the server? Wait, can you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. There's 9 people in the server already. It's called Dram's server, so it's very generic. I apologize for that name. I should have named it a little bit better. But there are people in there, so unfortunately there's nothing I can really do to make it more visible. I know there's a lot of servers up right now.
Alright, so would you say that the server is currently full already, which might be why players can't see the server?
I don't think it's full, because I think there might be like two spaces left.
Alright, okay. Well, we'll try and see. Hopefully the people in the chat who had issues with finding the server could try and look again. But you can confirm with us, Dram, that there are players.
Yeah, there are players here. There are. Yeah, I apologize for there's no filtering or anything like that. It will be added very soon.
Alright, okay. Thank you so much, Dram. Carry on. Alright, back to the questions for you, Marek. When I asked you about Bohemia Incubator, you mentioned how distribution of games has changed recently. So how would you say that the Bohemia Incubator program could help indie game development in terms of its scene? How could Bohemia Incubator change the scene of indie game development?
I don't think our our ambition is to change the scene of indie game development, so it's rather helping selected projects that would somehow resonate with our company values. So for those individual selected games, when we feel it's a right match, we can provide really significant support, and I hope Martin now understands there's much more to releasing a game than a solo game dev can handle easily.
Definitely.
So I think we still indie game dev company in our DNA or by heart.
Roots.
So we really I think come along really well with this more crazy indie approach to things that we know it's unpredictable. We know it's about a lot of passion and creativity and kind of crazy moments. So I really enjoyed the ride with Silica so far, and I hope there will be enough players to support it because this is really the first day of the game in the public hands, but our hope is to continue carefully growing the game throughout the early access and even afterwards. But now it's really in the hands of the players rather than ourselves. So we did as much as we can to make the game complete, make it as bug-free as possible, and also make it visible, because these days it's very difficult to kind of stand out of the crowd. So it's a lot of hard work of all the people in Bohemia Interactive that could support the game. So there's so much work. So big kudos to everyone who made this far, and we are on a beginning of a journey for Silica throughout the early access, and I'm really very curious how far we can get if the support is strong enough from our player base.
Alright, definitely very community driven. It's one of our important aspects in terms of Bohemia Interactive and Bohemia Incubator. So just letting the community know that if you have any questions for us in the chat, we will try to pick them later. So feel free to send any questions our way and we will do our best to respond. And now, Marek, last few questions before you can jump in a game with Drum. What would you say is your most favorite thing in the game? What do you like the most?
I like the most playing on behalf of crabs or bugs, so they call them aliens, but in fact it's the humans that are aliens on our own planet. So
Aliens, you mean?
aliens. I identify with crabs more than aliens in this game because I think it's their homeland. So I definitely enjoy playing as the nest, as the bugs, and defending our homeland from the invasion of those greedy human. So I like the mechanics of these units, and I like even the serenity of just building the nest and collecting the food, and then maybe defending our home.
All right, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll get to see some of that action later with the aliens versus humans. All right, so since you did mention that you really like the aliens, which alien do you like the most? Would it be the crabs or specific other units?
Like, obviously, aside of Goliath, which is a huge creature, I like the scorpion a lot. It's very versatile. Somehow feels right. But I overall like playing all of them, and I like the way how they can freely move on the slopes, and basically they have no limits of movement, as most of first-person shooters limits you in movement, so this is very different, so that's why I like it, and I like the simplicity of it.
All right, okay. And last question. In terms of future updates, what are you looking forward to the most?
Like Tony already mentioned air units, so that's true. Air units already were present in some of the early versions, so we know how it feels, and it feels great. So I'm sure air units will be amazing addition to the set of Silica, but no game I really enjoy is complete without an editor. So I would say we really need a mission editor in Silica.
All right, well,
So that's what I like when I can freely toy with, let's say, the elements the game provides us since Operation Flashpoint. So I think even in Take on Mars, the editor was maybe a little bit too clunky in terms of control. So hopefully this time we make it more user-friendly. But having kind of a Flashpoint editor or Zeus editor would make this game super exciting for me. So hopefully it happens throughout early access.
fingers crossed.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Marek, for your time with the questions. Feel free to join the same game as Dram is in right now. You are free to enjoy Silica alongside Dram. We do have a question in the chat. What platform is Silica on? It's available on PC. You can download it either from the Bohemia Interactive website, or you could download it from Steam. Okay. And I would just like to see some more questions. Perhaps while I'm scrolling through the questions, just really want to clarify that Silica has been made available today for early access. So if you haven't been able to grab it yet, please do right now. It's available now for early access. Okay. And there is a question, perhaps Dram will be kind enough to answer it. Will there be a spectator mode or a replay system in the future?
Definitely want to look into it. Spectator mode, no problem. We all already right now, if you turn on cheats, you can actually go into free fly camera and look around. So I'd like to kind of develop that a little bit better than just a free fly camera. But otherwise, I just forgot. I was concentrating on the gameplay. So
That's
spectator
totally
mode,
fine.
and the other one was, sorry?
Spectator mode and replay.
Replay. Yes, so replaying, that was one thing which I really would like to do, though I don't want to promise it. Definitely not for early access, because there are more important things to focus on for now, but I think it would be really beneficial for the game.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for that response, Dram. Maybe another question for you again, Dram, if you don't mind. DLSS or FSR support in the future?
Definitely will be looked into. I looked into it before, and DLSS 2 worked pretty well, though there were some issues with the shaders that we're using in the project. So, but I definitely like to look into it in the future, especially with DLSS 3. That would be really useful. But more importantly, I think, than looking into DLSS, I think it's more important to look into data-oriented programming, because that can actually bring basically the data-oriented technical stack in Unity, which could bring us even more performance versus, you know, because right now it's mainly bogged down by the CPU. That's the biggest limiter right now. So doing it data-oriented, like a lot of the calculations will help a lot.
All right, thank you. And one more question directed for you, Dram. Can we see the RTS side of this, as we have just seen the first person and the third person demo, so could we quickly jump into RTS? Or...
Sure. I'll just move away from these crabs because I'm at their base.
Oh wow, that's really courageous of you.
Yeah, with a light quad. Okay, I'm just gonna move away and I'll hop out of the car and I'll just switch to the aliens. Okay, so someone's already got the what's it called, the commander position there, but okay, there's commanders on all 3 teams.
So if we could just kindly ask the community members who are watching on the stream right now and our commanders if you could just briefly make way for Dram to be able to get into the commander position so that we can show off the RTS mode as well live.
Okay, so I'm in it. Yeah, Voita got out of it. Thanks, Voita. So Voita is in the stream and now I can see he's here, so we'll give him an order. We'll give both of them, these people, an order. We'll send them over here. I'll send Light Quad back to go at least to one of them, and I will send them over there. Okay, so we're in the RTS view. As you can see, everything I saw a moment ago from first-person perspective is now seen from the, well, you know, RTS perspective. I'm going to pull these vehicles back. In fact, I'm going to go and have them attack this player. That's attacking the crab. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to let them attack the crab base. Why not? Probably a better idea to let them be. I'm going to pull back this rifleman to the base. These 2 light quads, I'm going to have them attack the crab. I'm going to go back to my base, and I can see someone's gotten into it, and someone else is trying to get into the other one. Alright, so I'll just give this other person a waypoint over to the other vehicle. And him, I'll just kind of move back a little bit. I'll just stay on the spot. Right, this vehicle. Right there.
While you're setting up the waypoints, there's an interesting question
if they want to
from
ride on top. Alright, fair
the
enough.
chat for both Marek and Dram. Are there any other Bohemia Interactive games which either of you play and enjoy, and if so, which ones?
I'll let Marek answer first.
Okay. So it's a long list. Oh, sorry, I'm under attack, but I will try to answer. So, because I'm contributed to many of them, I kind of really liked nearly all of them. So, still probably number 1 for me is Operation Flashpoint. Well, they killed me. It's very difficult to fight.
Yeah,
so
multitasking.
Operation Flashpoint, but obviously then Arma 3 and Daisy, I have thousands of hours in each of those, so these 3 games are probably by far my favorites, but I obviously enjoyed also Take on Mars because the value learning new stuff about Mars is pretty big, so maybe Martin can say a bit more about our games.
Yes. So I'm of course going to be biased. I'm going to say that I do enjoy Take on Mars a lot. I did enjoy Carry Command. I did enjoy Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. I did enjoy Arma 3. I could go on. But to be fair, I think each game has like something which me personally I really enjoy in, like while playing it. For example, Contact, Arma 3 Contact. That was, you know, fantastic. I really like the take on you know, the first encounter with aliens and so on. So I think each of our games, like, or you know, Bohemia Interactive games, have something to offer, something special, and I do think that that's what really made me stay at the company for 14 years, because it's oh, we're under heavy attack. Okay, I just lost a few units over there. No matter, it doesn't matter. We'll manage. I think. Doesn't look like it, but we'll try. Actually, I want to leave that light quad there. But yeah, I think each of our games have always something unique to offer. So. If that answers the question.
I think that it does. I hope that it does, and I definitely think that it does as well from my perspective. Okay, and we have another question. Alright. Is this what a full server looks like? There is quite a lot of space for few players. Will there be AI enemies to fill out the ranks?
Yes, so I've taken over the role right now, and I'm actually focusing not on building more units. I could build as many as I want, but right now I'm actually focusing on upgrading the tech to be able to build some vehicles, some heavier vehicles, and I need more money for that right now. I need 500 more Balturium, which is coming in here. So normally, of course, you know, with the aliens, I'm currently seeing it from the perspective of the Centauri, but you know, the aliens can swarm. Basically, there's no unit cap. So, I mean, if I go here and I start building scouts, I'll cancel the marksman. Oh, I shouldn't have. Should have let it finish. Doesn't matter. But if I start spamming scouts, you can see them. You'll see them start popping out over here. Oh, I managed to finish it just in time. Cool. So you can see scouts incoming, and of course the vehicles take a little bit longer to build, and of course, you know, keep in mind it's early access, so some of these things are not fully. Oh, actually, I won't build a heavy quad. I'll build a light armored car since we've gotten to this level. So keep in mind, you know, it is a work in progress, and it will, especially the balance, that's going to change a lot. So just please keep that in mind when playing, of course. So I'm going to build a heavy vehicle factory here. Oh, anyway, I'm going to pass it back to you. Sorry, I'm starting to talk
No, it's
about what's
totally
happening.
alright. You can totally narrate the experience. I'm pretty sure that our players who are watching the stream would like to enjoy and watch more of the gameplay. We do have questions regarding the gameplay. Just a quick note for our members in the chat who are watching right now. This game mode that we're playing is the flagship strategy mode for Silica, and now I will segue into the question. For you, Dram, can Silica, perhaps specifically strategy mode, be played single player with AI, or must it be only played online?
It can be played in single player entirely. The main point was with, like, when I was putting together the concept, was so you would be able to play alone, either if you wanted to, because I know a lot of people do enjoy playing alone, and there are times where I do enjoy playing alone as well. Okay, I'm gonna. Whoa, we got a big attack coming. Sorry about that. But yes, you can play with friends. You can play, you know, alone. And most importantly, if you play FPS, it does not force you to go into RTS. And likewise, like vice versa. You know, if you're just an RTS player, as you can see, I'm doing a really pretty shoddy job of playing as the RTS commander right now. You know what? I might actually pass to someone in a sec, but. Because we're getting attacked from all sides, and I don't want to be responsible for the loss. I'm joking.
I see, you're washing your hands off of the situation.
To a degree, but we'll manage.
But it's fair. I mean, you're multitasking, you're playing at the same time as conversing. So
we got a Goliath over here. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, yeah, we're getting really attacked here. But I want to say, yes, you can of course play it. There is no like inherent player count. Like player limit or like minimum player count. Okay, I'm gonna build a lot of heavies. Let's build heavies. The whole idea is so so it's up to you. You can play, for example, all friends in co-op on one team, or all friends like competing against each other, and so on. That's the main idea of of what we've chosen to do with the game. Allow players to just like do what they want. Oh dear, they've taken out our harvester. All right, I'm gonna have to join in the fun and.
Oh, I took your harvester.
That was you?
Sorry.
That was you?
Okay.
the intense clicking from Marek's side led to an amazing outcome.
No. Oh no! All right, yeah, I can hear Marek clicking there. Right, well, I'm gonna have to. You know what? I'm gonna send something to his.
But
base.
we are not finished.
Yeah,
They're
no,
just keeping on going.
They've taken my. Oh, I already have a radar. Why did I build a second one? I'm being supremely useless as a commander right now, but doesn't matter. It's all good. I mean, it's all in a day's work, so to speak. All right, this other harvester. I might actually wait. Go here. Yeah. You know what? I might actually jump back into the action because I'm doing a shoddy job, and I'm going to go into first person.
All right. We have a question about the controls in the game. Is there a way of changing controls, as some players are not particularly skilled at using WASD?
Okay, so currently there is no way to change them, but it is of course on the to-do list. Like being able to change controls is of course required. So it will be added during early access. Right now, if you press escape, there's like controls help, in case you're not sure, and it tells you by context, if you're playing Commando, if you're playing, as an alien or whatnot, it shows you the controls. It's very ugly. It's purely temporary, and of course, it will be, you will be able to set up your own controls afterwards. But right now, it's not possible just yet.
Alright, but it definitely will be in the future. Or you at least aspire to have it.
It definitely will be available. 100%. 100%.
Alright, thank you so much for that assurance. And yes, there are other people in the chat who are mentioning what they aren't particularly skilled at or what they would rather prefer. So, for example, some of them would prefer to play with arrow keys rather than WASD or their own personal preferences. So, I think, Dram, you gave them a huge chunk of happiness and hope with that assurance. Thank you.
Awesome.
Alright, and we do have a question again. Or no, maybe I'd like to briefly address this lovely feedback. One of our members on the Twitch chat said that they love how seamless it was to swap between FPS and RTS. So big kudos to you, Dram, for making this amazing and possible. So there's
Thanks.
that.
I like for me it was very important to be able to like switch. Like one thing which is currently not possible there yet is to be in the commander role and directly control some of the units while not having to actually switch roles. That's a very important thing. I know Marek has told me multiple times he wants that, so it will be in. Don't worry about it. No, go away. Oh no.
Aww.
But yeah, it will be in so that you can, of course, control directly from commander view an individual unit which is not controlled by a player, of course, and be able to switch around and so on. And I'm happy people find it fluid, like switching between the roles. Oh, they destroyed my barracks. Yeah, by the way, the destruction of the buildings is not complete yet, so just don't worry about it for now. This is what it currently looks like. It won't look like that in the future. Oh, we got a scorpion over here too.
And quick context for the chat, the huge bug that is currently destroying a lot of infrastructure is actually Marek on a separate computer as he is sitting right next to me, and
he's
he is
almost
very
dead.
determined.
He's almost dead.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes, he's dead. He died.
Okay.
You'll just start all over again and continue. It'll be fine. And there is a compliment about the crabs. They are impressive and very intimidating. So kudos, Dram.
Glad to hear it.
And another question, how big is the development team for Silica? Actually, it's a one-man development team, and that one-man team is sitting right there. It's Dram.
Yep. I'd like to add to that again. It is a one-man team now. But as I mentioned before, there were people helping me with UI and with the locations. So Kasi Hutskova and Ondřej Binar. So Ondřej Binar did the UI, Kasi Hutskova did the locations. So it is important to note because, of course, it's not 100% solo.
All right. Looks like you've done a great job, Dram. Kudos. That was from the chat.
Thank you. I'm switching to Marek's team. I've joined.
Oh, you
I've
can't
joined...
beat them. You joined them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they destroyed us. I mean, what are you meant to do? They've basically destroyed all our things. So I'm joining the alien forces.
Yeah. So maybe a little hint for FPS players out there. It's when you look at a unit that's AI controlled, you can press E key
Yes.
and take control of the unit. This is not super obvious right now in the user interface, but it's very handy when you see a more powerful unit that's AI driven. You can just press E key and you take control of this unit. So definitely recommend it when you spawn as a crab in the game.
Thank you for that helpful tip.
If I may just insert one little comment. Someone was mentioning in the game that the music is amazing, and I would like to credit the music. It's very important for me personally. It's done by Scott Buckley. It's a Creative Commons library, but the music is truly fantastic, and I think he deserves all the credit that's given to him for this fantastic, the soundtrack. It wasn't made exclusively, of course, for Silica, but I highly recommend, looking at his stuff. I really recommend it for everyone.
Yes, thank you very much for bringing that up, Dram. And we do have a question about controller support. Is there controller support currently, or will that be coming later on in the future?
Okay, so currently there is no control support, but it will be added. I actually brought a controller with me. I thought I'd have more time today to be able to implement it, not for a version, of course, but it'll be available in one of the nearest versions. But yes, control support is planned, and it will be added.
All right, thank you for that. And we have some very satisfied members in the chat saying, this game looks fantastic, and thank you for this stream. I will be playing this evening.
Awesome.
That's very heartwarming. We're
Thanks,
so happy.
everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Um, let's see what the chat is currently saying. There is a question about turrets. Is there such a thing that you could put down around the base to help with
Yes.
defending?
Yes, so the aliens right now. Okay, just a note. I switched to the Goliath because the Goliath is just the best unit in the game. But anyway, one thing. Yes, turrets are planned for the human team. The aliens have them already. They're able to place defenses. The AI doesn't build them just yet. That's of course on the to-do list for the AI commander when there's no player commander to be able to build them. But otherwise, turrets are of course planned for the human faction as well, and you will be able to place them.
Alright, thank you so much, Drem. Okay, let me also have a look at what the other chats are saying. We have some excited people saying that they can't wait to play. Thank you very much for the positive feedback. Okay. Will there be any air assets and armored carriers to carry troops?
Yes, both. There'll be a whole series of flying units, both for aliens and humans, and of course armored carriers. There's actually already one in the game. You just can't build it just now because the AI is not capable of utilizing it just yet. That's one thing which I do have to write. But yes, both are most certainly planned because distances can be quite large in certain cases. So definitely planned on the to-do list.
All right, awesome. And we have more hype in the chat, which is really amazing to see. I'm so hyped to play this when I get back from vacation. I gotta wait all the way till the 14th, but I'm very excited.
Oh, I saw you on the Discord. Good to see you here.
Alright, and we have some people thanking Dram for the amazing and impressive. Let me just read it word per word. If you understand the scale and size of what Martin Dram did, it's damned impressive. Gotta forgive the little bucks. He pulled off a miracle.
I remember one comment in one of the YouTube videos, which was this time, the bugs are a feature. So
Oh, yeah.
most definitely.
And we have an interesting question in terms of the development that you put behind this, Dram. How did you manage to maintain consistency between RTS and FPS perspective with large explosions? Because they look fantastic.
Thank you. So in this regard, it was absolutely crucial for me to make sure each of the experiences, if you want to call them that, the RTS experience and the FPS experience, are both true to their genre, right? So, for example, all of the colliders, you can't really see it playing as an alien right now, but all of the bullets and all these kind of things, they are realistically simulated. If I turned on cheats, I could slow down time, but I'm not going to do that right now. But I could slow down time. I could show, of course, the ballistics and stuff. So if someone's interested, they can have a look at it. But all of the bullets are realistically simulated. You can see them here and there bouncing off my Goliath's back right now. So, it was very important for me to have realistic ballistics, the vehicles acting realistically. So that's why I wanted to implement them using physics. The size of everything being correct, or as I would imagine it to be. And of course, moving around as a human being, you would expect that these buildings are going to be very large. So, from a gameplay perspective, when you're running around FPS, it feels like an FPS game. If you're playing it from an RTS perspective, it does feel like an RTS game. I wanted to avoid any kind of mixing, because I've seen some approaches in the past where, like ages ago, of course, where it was that it's an RTS, but you can switch into the units, for example, here and there. Or it was an FPS and you sort of could control it from above. But in this case, I wanted to go like the full thing. I'm not going to force anyone to play RTS, and I'm not going to force anyone to play FPS. That was the approach here, and I do believe it's been achieved. At least I dare say so. Of course, I do want to give a shout out to Natural Selection 2. I played that since it came out, or a little while after it came out. To basically, last I played it was in January actually. Of course, things ramped up, so I wasn't able to play it anymore, time-wise. But basically, yeah, Natural Selection I think did it very well. But it's indoor, and that's one thing which I wanted to kind of I would not want to step on the toes, for example, of Natural Selection 2, because I do enjoy the game and I respect the work that's been done on it. So that's why here the approach has been, let's go outdoor. That was one thing which I did miss in Natural Selection 2, and I thought that's what I would focus on.
Alright, thank you so much for that. Alright, let's see what else the chat is saying. Okay. We do have someone asking if there is a save option for single player.
No, there's no saving just yet. It is planned, not only for single player. Saving will be available in multiplayer as well. But it'll take a little time, of course.
All right. Checking what else the chat has to say. But while I'm checking, real brief, Drem, how long do we have left in the strategy game that you're playing right now?
About, I would say, only a few minutes. We've destroyed basically the. Okay, there's another person in that. We've destroyed basically the base, the team. Like Sol is entirely eliminated, and there are just a few buildings of Centauri left, and some 2 stubborn players still in the Centauri team. Come on, guys, you can do it.
All right. And are there any plans for a story-driven campaign for Silica?
So I would really, really love to do a story-driven campaign. I'd like to do basically one kind of, you could say, a 3-part campaign, one for each faction, of course. I would like to do that in the future. However, that really depends on the interest in the game. If there's no interest in the game, then it's just not worthwhile. And of course, in either case, it would most likely come after early access, or release of 1.0, more specifically.
All right. Okay. And we do have some questions in the chat wondering where they could see any updates or hear any announcements. Please do follow us on our social media. You should be able to see it on your screen. We are on Twitter. We have an official Discord as well. We are also on Facebook, and we also go live on Steam and on Twitch. So I believe that these are all the facets of information where you could hear firsthand about what's happening. Some players who are already a part of the Discord are well aware that Dram keeps everyone updated over there on what's happening, which thank you so much, Dram, for that. So, yes. Okay. Will there be an option for hold to ADS?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to do the hybrid option where if you just click it, it goes into hold. It stays. Like it stays toggled, of course, and if you hold it, then it just holds, and once you let go, it does that. I've seen it in a couple of games. I forget the games, so I would like to give credit, but I don't remember them. But I think it's a very good idea, and that's what I would choose to do.
All right. Okay. And we do have another question. Is co-op gonna allow a player in RTS mode while having other players in FPS mode? That would be amazing.
Yes, I like one of the things which when I mentioned my brother before, he loves to play RTS, and I prefer to play FPS most of the time. So what I used to do was, we'd play co-op where we'd play in multiplayer. He would be in controlling it as an RTS, and I would be in FPS running around. And it was just us two, for example, against the AI. In a three-way battle, for example, the other 2 teams were against us, and they were just completely controlled by the AI. And yeah, so it is entirely possible. You can have all players on one team at the moment if you like. In fact, that's what's happening, but probably not intentionally, because everyone's dead. Yeah, the one thing I do want to mention right now is, of course, the win, or more specifically, the lose condition is, of course, right now you have to destroy all major structures, right? And as you can see, there are a couple of major structures left, but they can't really do anything. Or there's one major structure left, and that's the heavy vehicle factory. So once we destroy that, it's game over, basically. But this I do want to, of course, add proper detection, make it easier to think. Because obviously, right now it's just about getting to one building and destroying it. The possibility to lose is basically 0 right now. So.
And what about sprinting or toggling auto run?
That's a good point. I never really thought about that. But if it's desired, that can be added. Why not?
All right. Thank you for that. And this is an interesting question. Is your AI in Silica smarter than a human player?
I think we're very far from any AI being smarter than a human. In any case, unless it's a very simple and logical equation-based thing, such as, for example, chess. There, of course, it does make sense that AI can be more, better than a human being. But here, it relies on, the amount of variables and factors you have to take into account from the perspective of programming AI is, of course, insane. So, yeah, no, definitely, a player can defeat the AI. And of course, right now it's still work in progress. So the AI is able to give a challenge, but of course, once a player knows decent tactics and stuff, a little player will be able to defeat the AI. But it is, of course, in development. That's very important to note, and it is a focus during the entirety of early access.
All right. And in terms of strategy, which is the game mode that we are playing right now, will there be smaller maps in the future?
It's a good point. I think like right now this map is actually 3 by 3 kilometers, while other maps are in fact, for example, 6 by 6 kilometers, so they're even larger. Why I mention that is one thing I want to do is put in for example, settings. That I think really will change how the game plays. More specifically because you'll be able to set, for example, the starting distance, how far away the bases begin from each other. And therefore, even on a very large map, you get straight into the action straight from the beginning if you set the starting distance very small. So, here I've made it as far as possible, purely because this map in particular, it's 3 by 3 kilometers, and it kind of made sense to... Right, there we go, won the game. Aliens win. I knew they'd win straight from the beginning, of course. I believed in them straight from the beginning. I wasn't Suntory, honest, Anyway, but yeah, so smaller maps, I think it would be maybe a little bit against itself. It's better to have a large map, in my opinion, and just cordon off a sector, for example, for combat, rather than doing, very small maps. At least that's my opinion.
All right, fair enough. And as we can see, the strategy game mode has ended. Kudos to everyone who was contributing to this, and kudos to Marek for jumping in and ruining everything for the humans, and kudos to Dram for jumping in on the aliens team once Marek decided to obliterate everything in his path. Alright, perhaps it would be a good time to wrap up the stream, as we were able to show off some gameplay with Silica's strategy game mode. We hope that you all have enjoyed it. Let's perhaps try to do some closing remarks. Dram, do you have anything you'd like to share with the community before we head off?
I noticed some people were mentioning pricing and this kind of thing, like if the game they buy it during early access, if they keep it once it gets released. Of course you do. If you buy it during early access, the copy you own is yours to keep forever. So yeah, so definitely that's one thing which I want to just clarify. If you buy now, of course it's cheaper than once it gets released in 1.0. Yeah, so I just want to address that concern.
All right, and do you want to perhaps add anything else before we say goodbye to our players?
Yes, definitely. I'd like to thank everyone that was on the Discord, that joined it early and was like really hyping it up and taking their time to kind of like think up, give plenty of suggestions and feedback and all this kind of stuff. So I'm really grateful for that. I've got a ton of suggestions there, so I'll have to go through them and stuff. I'd like to thank all of the beta testers who helped during the testing phase and so on. Of course, I definitely would like to thank my family for being patient during this process. I mean, I did work a lot of overtime on it. It was very important to me to kind of like get it to a really good state. And of course, I'd like to thank Marek as well for giving the opportunity to develop the game. I think is just fantastic. It's great to. It was a lot of fun. I was getting lost in the game, so.
All right. Well, that just proves how much of an immersive experience it can be. Thank you, Dram, for those closing remarks.
Oh, one last thing. I
Yes.
will mention again, I do want to again thank Kase and Ondra for their work. Fantastic stuff.
All right. Thank you, Dram. All right, Marek, some last words before we head off?
Well, so obviously it's Dram's big night, so I really hope players will be at least a little bit forgiving, because they can be very cruel, and if you put 5 years of hard work into something, then you read someone in 5 minutes bashing your 5 years of life. it can hurt despite being grown up. But obviously, it's very rare to see such a passion in a game developer as Drum possesses. So I'm absolutely confident that if he gets support from the players, he will deliver more miracles in years to come with Silica. So I really hope people enjoy how far he came. And hopefully they will join him on this amazing journey through early access and beyond, because Silica can turn into a very special blend, and I think it's showing already. So it's great fun, and there's a lot that can be done, but Drum definitely needs support of the players. He will continue to have my support and support of Bohemia crew for sure. So thank you all, and I wish you good luck on Baltarus, and enjoy the rest of the day, evening, and have fun with Silica if you can.
Yes, thank you so much, Marek. All right, we will be wrapping up our stream in a moment. Thank you everyone for stopping by during our release stream. Silica is now available in early access, so don't forget to grab it from Steam or from Bohemia Interactive's website. And we'll see you on Baltarus. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank you.